Imagine this. Your loved one, father, uncle, son, brother, is 53 years old, and he has limited mobility. He needs a wheelchair or a power chair just to get around. One night, he disappears, but the chair is left behind. That's what we're talking about in today's case. It's time to turn on the searchlight for Samuel Lee Houchens. Welcome to Brainscratch Searchlight. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I'm John Lorden, and we are going to look into another case together. And I'm going to ask you to be a part of the solution and share this video with your friends or family that live in the Charlottesville, Virginia area. Cases come to me in all kinds of different ways. This case has kind of a sweet story attached to it. One of the highlights for me personally is when I hear from people that I've helped inspire them to do something that helps other people in need. And that's exactly what happened with Brain Scratcher and Lorden Art supporter Anne. She sent me an email a few weeks ago. First off, I want to say again a huge thank you for a new reason. Your work was a major factor in my decision to create an Unsolved Virginia page and group on Facebook. It's called Unsolved VA. I created it on December 25th, but didn't start posting much until early January. In 28 days, it's received over 1,500 page likes, almost 30,000 post engagements, and has a reach of over 97,000 people. The group is up to 876 members. I'm astounded at the response. And here is the page that Anne has put together. And I just want to say, Anne, I think it's amazing that you are taking this on. I know it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, but I'm so thankful that there's more people like you and we can grow a network of more and more caring people to help out in cases just like the one we're looking at today. So Anne has been posting about Samuel Lee Houchens. She notes he's endangered missing. He went missing on June 20th, 2018. Of course, we have very big cause for concern, and that's part of the reason why I was so motivated to do this case. Several of the articles are starting to disappear from the internet, so I think it's time to capture this information, grab as much of it as we can, and share it here on YouTube. And that's another aspect to this. I couldn't find any videos covering this case on YouTube. He's missing from Charlottesville, Virginia. It's noting here that there is a Charley Project page. Big thank you to Megan. We support her every single month. But there's no NamUs profile. She says she does have the family notified. Just today, I've been in contact with a family member, and I'm going to try to follow up on that to see if there's anything I can do to help them. I've created several NamUs profiles. In a case like this, with the age of this disappearance, I think it's very important to have his record in NamUs. Many of you know this, but NamUs is a system where there's a missing persons database and there's an unidentified bodies database, and there are checks that are run against both of those so that if someone is found in a different county, in a different state, it will still link up to their missing persons record and give people a chance to find them, because there's a lot of cases that just get lost in that shuffle of you've got your silo of records over there and I've got my silo of records over here. So it's a very important thing to have missing loved ones entered into NamUs. And if there's anything that I can do to help the Houchens family do that, I'm here to do that. So I'm already in contact with them, and I'll definitely be following up with them on that. Samuel Lee Houchens was last seen at his home during the evening of June 20th, 2018. That is a Wednesday night, I believe. It's located in the 1600 block of Meridian Street in Charlottesville, Virginia. Of course, we'll pull up a map a little bit later and take a look at that. Because he has back problems, he occasionally used a scooter, which was found at the home. Now, I think it's important to note there occasional use. So it does seem possible that if he wanted to get around, he probably could maybe go for a short walk. I don't have a ton of detail on what his range would be. Would it be reasonable to think that he would walk for 20 minutes, taking him about a mile away? Would it be reasonable for him to walk 60 minutes, which would be up to 3 miles away? We don't know at this time. And I'm hopeful that with putting this video out, if the family feels like there's additional details that would be helpful to get out there, perhaps we could do a follow-up segment with them in some type of interview or something like that. His daughters have said he would not disappear voluntarily and stayed in close touch with him. Definitely some things to be concerned about here, and they've got a few pictures of him. I thought this was an excellent post, and I love that Anne pulled it together like this. Of course, also citing her sources, which in the true crime community, something that's a little bit rare at times, and I appreciate that Anne is doing that as well. Let's learn a little bit about where this is going on. Charlottesville, Virginia, is also known as Seaville. As a matter of fact, some of the social media I'm seeing around this keeps referring to Seaville for that area. It's an independent city in the Commonwealth of Virginia. In 2018, an estimated 48,000 people lived within the city limits. Charlottesville was the home of 2 presidents, Thomas Jefferson and James Monroe. They also do have some crime demographics. I just wanted to touch on a few points from here because I don't know if there could be a crime element coming into play. There's some things that might lead us in that direction, so I just kind of want to cover this with you guys. The city of Charlottesville has an overall crime rate higher than the national average. For the year of 2006, Charlottesville ranked higher on all violent crimes except for robbery. A downward trend in the number of reported crimes within Charlottesville occurred from 2009 up to 2013. So possibly in a disappearance like this, I just really want to keep us open to all different possibilities. Like I mentioned, no name is profile. Hopefully we'll have that corrected soon. But let's roll forward to a post from charlottesville.org. In their news and press releases section. Charlottesville Police is seeking the public's assistance in locating a missing person. This was posted on June 25th, 2018. Samuel Lee Houchens was reported missing on Friday, June 22nd, 2018. Not completely out of range. Some people might look at that and say, why is there even a 2-day gap? I know there's still that belief out there that some people think they have to wait 24 or 48 hours before they can file a missing persons report. The truth is typically there's no official policies about that. And the strange thing is sometimes if you talk to smaller police departments, you might kind of hear that thrown your direction. You really need to ask to speak to a supervisor and kind of escalate things, especially with a disappearance like this. I mean, if you know that most regularly he's in a powered scooter and the powered scooter is left behind, that seems to me like something very bad could be going on there. And there's some other clues that we might be looking at more than, Samuel deciding that he just wants to walk off on his own or leave his life for some reason. Mr. Houchens is a 53-year-old white male with brown hair thinning on top, 5 feet 7 inches tall, and 160 pounds. He was last seen late Wednesday evening, and that's something that's also kind of just nagging at me a little bit is we're not hearing any details of what's happening leading up to his disappearance. We're not hearing about was there some type of dispute that's going on? Was he speaking about having money issues leading up to this? Unfortunately, this is one of those cases where there's been kind of okay press coverage, but it's basically just repeating releases like this. There's a few articles that dig just a little bit deeper, but it just seems to me like it doesn't have that real strong investigative journalist that's looking into it and trying to get those details to share with the public to helpfully capture their attention, shake up their memories, and get some of those tips called in. So it's just somehow how these cases sometimes go. He has limited mobility and often uses a wheelchair. However, he may be on foot. And this press release says wheelchair. I know in the other article it says powered scooter. I'm not sure. It could be both. But it seems like they're very concerned in particular because his powered scooter is actually left behind. Jumping over to NBC12.com. Just to get some more details and start filling in what's going on, because without the NamUs profile, all the basic stats are kind of all over the place. We know he's 5'7", he's 160 pounds, he's got hazel eyes, he's got brown hair, but what about clothing? Here we get a bit of a description. Last seen wearing a gray t-shirt, Really wish we would know if that was like a logo, any type of logo on that, or a shirt for a local community event or something, but we don't have that detail. Navy and orange UVA basketball shorts and brown shoes. And once again, brown shoes is a little vague, but thankfully we've got some better detail in another article. In terms of the shorts, that might be the most recognizable in terms of what he's wearing. I believe it's probably these UVA pants and shorts, although in other articles I am seeing it refer to basketball ones, but I believe that these are retro vintage. So I'm not exactly sure which shorts it is. And once again, if a family member comes on, maybe we can clear that up. I have a feeling it's these, but it very well could be these. So we'll keep that in mind. Jumping forward to get a little piece of additional detail at WTVR.com, brown penny deck shoes. Now, I actually had to look this up because I wasn't sure exactly what it was referring to. I believe these are the types of shoes that it's referring to, almost like a brown penny loafer. I'm seeing a lot of references to them being called penny boat shoes. But something along these is what I believe we're looking for in terms of his footwear. A couple posts on social media that happen around this. We can see at Charlottesville City, which you can see their handle is Seville City Hall. They do a post about him. Have you seen this person? And they jumped on it relatively quick. I mean, we know that his missing persons report is filed 2 days later, so that would put us at the 23rd, Friday the 23rd. Within 2 days of that, they're tweeting about his disappearance. Also, a local reporter, Bo Sykes, does an update on June 27th. Police are expanding the search effort for Samuel Lee Houchens using land, water, and air resources. Houchens was reported missing on Friday. I've had to pull this article back from the web archive, but it's originally posted at NBC29.com. And this is one of the articles that actually has a lot of good detail. Kind of breaks my heart that it's not available readily on the internet anymore, especially for an active missing persons investigation. But that's why we're doing this. Charlottesville police are combing through a wooded area near Quarry Park for a man who was last seen a week ago. Search and rescue teams began their efforts Wednesday, June 27th at 53-year-old Samuel Lee Houchens' home on Meridian Street. Police had also looked around the area of Moores Creek on Monday, June 25th. So let's jump to a map real quick. And they're talking about Quarry Park, which we can see down here. We have Meridian Street highlighted, but from what I understand, he actually lives on this hoop of Meridian Street down here. And of course, what's very concerning about that is we do have Moores Creek essentially spinning off of what looks like his backyard. Now, I tried to do some street view stuff to see, I mean, I'm hearing the word creek and I'm not thinking that it's a substantial amount of water there, but there's also some weather going on at this time, and apparently the creek does actually swell up. Let's try something. Let me actually try from the overpass just to see if we can get a little view of what type of creek we're talking about. Most of the areas I'm dropping to look like this. It's just there's too much foliage and you can't really see the water, so I can't really tell, is it like how wide is it? But here we get just a little view of it. I don't know, guys, it doesn't look super deep. This almost looks like some type of, I don't know if it's a beaver dam that has been built here, but there's another object that's just beyond that. And from what I understand, the search efforts have been pretty exhaustive in terms of them checking this creek and all the way to the river that it actually runs into. We're going to get some more details on that. But I'm just not sure. And who knows, because that's the water level at one particular time of year, and with storms and rain flooding in there, maybe that increases substantially and looks a lot more treacherous than it does in that particular snapshot. Family members said that his disappearance is alarming. He has limited mobility and uses a scooter to get around. However, that scooter is still in his home. Another detail I would like around that is just, was the scooter found anywhere odd in his home? Was it in a usual spot? Did it seem like he left with things that he would take if he was going out? Like, is his wallet missing? Unfortunately, we don't have those details. Here's a quote. "It's a reasonable hypothesis that he could have fallen in the creek the night of the 20th or the morning of the 21st, the water was up from all the torrential rains we had. We have also brought out a bloodhound 2 nights ago to do an immediate search of the area, and it indicated on the possibility that he had gone from the backyard to the bank of the creek, said Charlottesville Police Captain Wendy Lewis. It seems to me like it's a tricky proposition using a bloodhound in that situation, because this is his home. That could have been a path that he traveled numerous times, and we don't know if the bloodhound is tracking that particular instance of him going to the water. Is that the last time that he was there? And we have a quote from one of his daughters. "We're running out of time to have a good outcome from this. It's been a long time," said Heather Houchens, missing man's daughter. Teams are kayaking on Moores Creek all the way to the Rivanna River. Authorities are also flying drones around the search area. So one thing that's interesting at this time with the searches, it's all professional services that have been called in. No volunteer services are really going on. But for the approach that they're taking, this seems to me like a pretty strong search effort. Seems to me very logical that they're going to focus on the immediate area, considering that his main source of mobility is still left at the home. But that doesn't rule out the possibility that he could have been removed from the home in some way, maybe put into a vehicle, and maybe isn't anywhere around there. I appreciate they're pulling out the dogs, but like I said, I think that's challenging when you're using someone's home as the basis for trying to track them. I would love to hear more professional opinions on that. If any of you guys have more insight into the effectiveness of bloodhound work at a home environment like that, please let us know about it in the comments down below, because obviously I'm not an expert. I'm just trying to say logically, I believe that that's a pretty challenging thing, but maybe there's something to it that I don't know about that makes it much more clear than it actually is. But like I said, this seems like a very substantial search effort. And of course, his daughter makes a very good point. Just being a week out, they're already worried about some type of bad outcome here. And we're now looking at this case. I mean, it's been a year and a half at this point. So definitely a lot of cause for concern, but also wondering if there's information out there and just the right person isn't getting that in the right hands. So if you are a person that thinks you have some piece of this puzzle, there is contact information in the description box below. It's right at the top. There's even a CrimeStoppers number there. So if you have to remain anonymous for some reason, you can do that. This family really deserves answers. And if you have something that can help them get that, please do the right thing. Please send that in to someone that can act on it using the details in the description box below. This case is also a bit historic in Virginia for a particular reason. Jumping over to Daily Progress here. State police have activated Virginia's first Ashanti alert for Samuel Lee Houchens. Governor Ralph Northam signed the alert bill into law in April, and it went into effect Sunday, also known as the Critically Missing Adult Alert. The system aims to help find adults between 18 and 60 years old who are missing and believed to be abducted or in danger. Little cause for concern there, because there's pretty specific conditions. We're going to go over some of them in another article here in a moment. The alert was created in the wake of the abduction and slaying of Ashanti Billy. So basically what happened is they recognized there was a gap here between Amber Alerts, which are obviously for children, and also have very rigid conditions. There's a lot of people out there that aren't aware that there's certain criteria that has to hit for an Amber Alert to be issued. Like you need to have enough information to share with the public so that it could actually be helpful issuing the Amber Alert, for example, like a vehicle description or a license plate or something like that. So, I see a lot of cases where people are like wondering, hey, how come there wasn't an Amber Alert called out on this? There's very specific conditions. Same thing here with the Ashanti Alerts. But basically there was a gap between the Amber Alerts and the Silver Alerts, which of course have their own conditions as well, but cover primarily senior citizens, people 60 and up. So what about the people in the middle? Shouldn't there be some type of alert system for them? And thankfully, in Virginia, they did kick off the Ashanti Alert. From what I understand, I believe President Trump also signed in the Ashanti Alert at a national level in late 2018. So I believe that it's now available in all states. But obviously, this was before that happened, and Virginia was trying to lead the pack. And also respect, of course, Ashanti Billy's story. Let's go ahead and continue at newsleader.com. And this is where it starts getting very concerning. You can see it in the title of this article, Charlottesville Man Abducted. And this is from July 2nd, 2018. According to criteria for the alert, the first of its kind in Virginia and just activated Sunday. So basically, July 1st was the first day that you could have an Ashanti alert. July 2nd, they kick it on for Samuel. It appears that authorities believe Houchens was abducted and could be in danger. Now, here they actually have the conditions for, it's also known as a critically missing adult alert, or a CMA. The abducted adult must be 18 years of age or older, and the law enforcement agency believes the adult has been abducted. Pretty straightforward, and they even clarify unwillingly taken from their environment without permission. So just on that first point, it's very clear we have big cause for concern here. The law enforcement agency believes the abducted adult is in imminent danger of serious bodily harm or death. Once again, very big cause for concern. A law enforcement investigation has taken place that verified the abduction or eliminated alternative explanations. That's interesting to me because it seems like there's a lot of other details about this case that aren't necessarily being released publicly, and that could be helpful. I mean, if they came to the conclusion that they really think that he's been abducted, how did they rule out the other stuff? Is there any piece that we, the public, could help them with if we knew about it? Did someone see a vehicle drive away or go speeding away from the scene? Do we need to ask the local citizens there to remember a gray Dodge Stratus, or some type of particular aspect? We're not quite seeing that level of information coming from law enforcement at this point. So it could be that they've determined that asking the public for that isn't helpful. Or that they've got their own plan for processing this case at this point. Now that we're looking at this, a year and a half later, I don't know if that plan is still in play or not. And we're going to hear some comments where it makes me think that they're at a stopping point with the investigation. But continuing for the other points here, sufficient information is available to disseminate to the public that could assist in locating the abducted adult, suspect, and or the suspect's vehicle. Now, that's kind of like what I was talking about with the Amber Alerts, that they have to have enough information that makes sense that when they put it up on the billboard, they're asking the public for something very specific to help them with. What I'm curious about here is I haven't really seen the actual post for whatever information they put out once this did hit an Ashanti alert. But this leads me to believe they should have been asking for something very specific in terms of how the public could help them. And I just don't know what that is. And it could be, once again, that maybe the family will help us with the understanding on that. Also another condition, and kind of a big step, and I wish they would tack NamUs in at this time too. The abducted adult must be entered into the Virginia Criminal Information Network, VCIN, and the National Crime Information Center, NCIC, missing person files. I really wish they would just hook NamUs right into there. There are several states now where it is actually law, and they do have to include a NamUs record once a missing person hits a certain time that they've been missing. Continuing at another article at Daily Progress here, something else that might be just another indicator that we have what I would consider a foul play situation going on here. Houchens' family called his disappearance alarming and said the battery of his cell phone and the back of the phone were found in the backyard, but the phone itself was missing. That could be the indicator in terms of the police investigation that told them this could be or is likely an abduction scenario. Why is someone going to remove the battery from their phone? Obviously, because they don't want to be traced. However, you could theorize Samuel maybe could have done that on his own. So that would lead me to believe that police actually have more information that's pointing to an abduction scenario. But I think that's just a little piece of the puzzle in terms of why they've come to that determination. And I don't know, just in terms of indicators of a foul play scenario for a case that has such little information, these points are all really strong in my eyes. And I really feel for the family. I know that they are desperately looking for answers, and it's been a year and a half. How do we help them? That's why we're doing this, and I hope that you guys will help me in terms of sharing this video and raising exposure to this case, because it is literally disappearing from the internet. Once again, here's another article from NBC 29 that I had to resurrect from webarchive.org. Friends and family are continuing the search for a missing Charlottesville man. This is posted on July 3rd, 2018. Family members say something isn't right with the situation and they need answers. A Charlottesville police sergeant says they have no new leads on where Houchens could be. So while that's concerning to me to hear that they have no new leads, I don't think we can quite make the assumption that that means the investigation is at a standstill or that this case has gone completely cold. It could be that they have some strong avenues that they're investigating, and maybe there's just some blocks in terms of them processing the case further on that front. Now, Houchens' sister and daughter are taking matters into their own hands and leading a search team on Tuesday, July 3rd. We don't know if he's okay, if he needs help. We don't know how to help him, says Heather, his daughter. It's very frustrating because the not knowing part, it's worrying me to death, really, says his sister, Becky. On Tuesday night, Becky and Heather enlisted the help of other family and friends to search near Riverview Park and Moores Creek for a number of hours. Some of my coworkers are here, family, cousins, aunts, friends that we've known since we were children. Everyone's been great. It's nice to see everyone helping, says Heather. I'm not stopping until I find my brother. I'm not stopping until I find my brother, says Becky. Teams with canines were out last week and again on Saturday. I really appreciate that this is the family's response to hearing that there's no new leads. They're going to get together and they're going to go looking themselves. And if there's one thing that 2020 has taught me personally so far, it's that those searches can provide some very strong results. We've had several cases that we've discussed just in this short year where family members have been the ones to find their missing loved ones. So I'm thankful that they went that way about it. This is one of those cases that's really frustrating, and it seems to me like there's so much more going on than just this surface level version that we're getting through the press. And I don't even know if the family really has much more insight. They could be in the same boat as us. The family member that I was talking to through email today kind of hit that same note with me. The main thing is we don't know. We just don't know where he is. Now, there was one thing that I saw in terms of some social media that was alluding to something possibly going on with a girlfriend of his. And I just want to address this because if you look into this case at all, you're probably going to run into that post. The family member that I spoke to said that lead has been worked and the investigation really isn't going in that direction. As a matter of fact, they're not even sure that the person that is being referred to as his girlfriend was actually his girlfriend at the time. So that's kind of where that one is for now, unless we hear different, if a family member comes on the show and gives us additional information. But let's continue. There's just a little bit of more information out here. And then, of course, we hit the roller coaster that these families go through at dailyprogress.com. Man's body found in Moores Creek. And this happened on July 31st, 2018. A headline that no doubt terrified all the friends and family of Samuel. Thankfully, in the heart of this post, Sergeant Tony Newberry said the body was not that of 53-year-old Samuel Lee Houchens. And I can't imagine how many more times that this may have happened to the family. It's like the absolute worst waiting game that you could ever imagine. Your brain is already running 100 different directions, wondering what's going on with my loved one, making you think some very dark things. And then you see a news story ping like that, and you think, wow, this could be it. This could be the answer. And I imagine there might even be not some sense of hope necessarily, but some sense of possible relief of, is this it? Are we finally going to have the answer we're looking for, even if it's the answer we don't want? But that's why I call it a roller coaster, because there's families that go through this for years with these posts over and over and over. And if you are a friend of one of these families, please be a good friend and try to help them through that. And I would just like to say, I've been in contact with so many different families at different points of having a missing loved one. Sometimes when you're interacting with them, they might not be being their best version of themselves. Being a great friend is recognizing what they're going through and still supporting them through that as well. So let's continue with just a little more information at Charley Project. And I really kind of debated if I would even include this or not. Megan put in this profile that there are medical conditions noted. Houchens is an alcoholic and has had a history of drug abuse. According to his girlfriend, he had stopped using drugs prior to his disappearance, but he had recently started again. Now, I think there is an extremely practical reason for including this information in a profile about him as a missing person. Could this be affecting this case? We don't know what type of drug use we're talking about, but is it something that maybe might alter his perception to the point where he's able to forget about his back pain for a while and maybe go a little farther than he could go typically on a normal day? The other aspect is who's providing the drugs. Does that tie into maybe some of the crime stats that we were talking about at the start of this video? Could that be some potential reason for someone wanting to abduct him and remove him from his home? So I do think it's important to note that. I know families can be very touchy about information like that coming out. I got to say that transparency, especially in a case like this, is absolutely best, because putting out information like that can trigger a whole different network of people to look into this in a whole different way. There are people that are former addicts or still current addicts that maybe live in that area and maybe see this video and maybe ask a question or two, and all of a sudden there's some new information that shakes out. So that's, I know it's a struggle. I know families can be embarrassed by stuff like this. There is nothing to be embarrassed about. We are all humans. We all have our own personal struggles. And just because someone uses alcohol or drugs of any kind doesn't mean that we should forget about them. Doesn't mean that they're not worth finding. They are. And on top of that, all the people that are being touched by this, they deserve answers. And if justice is needed, they deserve justice too. So that's really why I wanted to be sure to include that information. I think it's an important consideration in a case like this, particularly because the indicators we're seeing from law enforcement seem to suggest that this is an abduction situation. There is a Web Sleuths thread here. Not a whole lot of posts. It's one of those cases that just doesn't really seem to take off. However, there's one other important thing I just wanted to call out here. It looks like it might have been in October of 2018. There was a vigil held for Samuel. This is an article I wanted to get to, and unfortunately, the Internet Archive, webarchive.org, just doesn't have a copy of it saved. But just know that his family is doing that. One other thing I wanted to put out there for friends or family, I do have a link in every single video for Searchlight down in the description box below to a page I've put together with tips and expectations for if you have a missing loved one. And I do think there might be a couple of additional steps if you guys have the energy, because I know going through this is extremely taxing. There isn't a dedicated Facebook page that I could find for his disappearance. That might be helpful in terms of keeping exposure raised and maybe trying to catalog some of these media clips and news articles before they all completely disappear. Thankfully, you've got a great friend in Anne over at Unsolved VA, and I'm pretty sure that she's going to help keep the light on this case as well. But it might help to have an official Facebook page. Also, I couldn't find any GoFundMe or any type of fundraiser. Printing flyers isn't free. Printing t-shirts isn't free. Bumper stickers, all the kind of stuff that you would use for search efforts, digital billboards or regular billboards. That stuff can be very expensive very quickly. And if you don't have the means for that, putting up a GoFundMe and then having someone publicize it. And by the way, you guys, you have a new supporter in me. If you put up a GoFundMe, please let me know. I'll absolutely let the audience know about it. Maybe we can raise some funds to help your search efforts as well. So check the link down below for that tips and expectations link. And there might be some good ideas to help you guys kind of try to progress through this and maybe find the answers that you're looking for. I can tell you on behalf of myself and many of my viewers that you've got a new support network here. We're all looking to help in whatever ways we can. It's as simple as just asking us for what you need. Maybe talking to the investigator that is your primary contact and saying, hey, you know, we've got this new kind of social media angle that's kicking up around this case. Is there something that we can put out there to ask the public for help around this? Some new additional detail so that we can ask them specifically for some help with something in particular that can help us move this case forward. You know, with a case that's at a year and a half, this could be very tough. And with each passing day, people's memories are fading just a little bit more. So the quicker we can get on keeping the exposure raised, getting the right questions out there, and asking the public for their responses to that, the better. And I just also wanted to say that I really hope the local law enforcement hears how much we're behind them too. And we want them to solve this. We want to figure out where Samuel is. We want to help this family come to some form of peace about whatever happened on the night of June 20th, 2018. Before I end today's video, I want to thank several PayPal supporters, starting with Jennifer Wilson, Michael Park, Kelly Joe from I Am Me, Mark Witt, Emma Rostron, and Hillary Green. If you would like to support the channel, head over to www.lordenarts.com. You can sign up for PayPal, Patreon, buy merchandise. All of it helps keep me here doing what I love doing, trying to help these families in these terrible, terrible situations. And at this time, I just want to remind you guys, I need your help. Please share this video if you have friends or family that live in Virginia, and let's keep the exposure raised for Samuel and try to find some answers for his family. On Friday, we've got a special Brainscratch for you coming up. One punch can certainly kill someone, but can a one-punch kill actually be a murder? And is there one that's unsolved? It's going to be a deep episode, maybe a little longer than usual, but I hope you guys will join me. I'll see you there on Friday on Brainscratch right here on the Lord and Arts channel.